So, it continues. Hello there, writerly friend. Welcome back to Max's Writing Advice Q&A. Today, I have a selection of questions randomly selected by a random number generator and sent by viewers just like you. As always, before I go anywhere, if you have a writing question you would like to send my way, please, feel free to leave it down in the comments below. Every week, questions are chosen randomly, so your question is as likely to be picked as anyone else's. Let's dive right in with the formal disclaimer. As always, the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks a little bit, or rather precisely, like this. Really quickly before I go anywhere, again, questions are chosen randomly, and this week the RNG, the random number generator, chose 3 questions that are all like double questions, so I'm gonna make it very clear right now. If you leave like a cluster of questions in the comments, I'm just gonna split them just now on, because this is a little silly. So let's just take it from the top. First question of the day goes a little bit like this. How do you stay focused on a story when it's not exciting for you to write anymore? Also, how do you know what medium you should be writing for? Novels, TV/movie scripts, video games, visual novels, comic books, ? So 3 minutes on the clock, get set, go! First off, really quickly, how do I stay focused on a story that's not exciting anymore? Well, I recommend you go check out my guide to how to plan a novel, because the entire foundation of my novel planning process is to remind myself to have a solid foundation based on things that excite me, so that throughout the writing process I can always remind myself. If you're having issues with your story, I recommend one of the 2 things. Take a moment, stop, probably close the door, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, put on some nice music, and ask yourself, what were the things that drove me to start writing this story from the beginning? What were the root elements, the fun, the things that made this story so shiny and interesting and fun? Probably write those down, whatever they come to you. It could be things like the main character's antics, the romance between the 2 protagonists, the antagonist and how rotten they are. All those things, write them down. Put them on the wall or something, and remind yourself when you get back into writing that this is what the story is about, and you're gonna make it about those things, okay? On the side note, if you are unable to find those things, if you feel like you're honestly not excited about the story anymore, I want to remind you, as always, that you are an adult, no matter how old you are, no matter what your parents say. You're an adult, and you can make your own choices, and if the story's not exciting for you anymore, find a new story, okay? Move forward. You gain nothing when you just like stop and you don't get writing done and you don't push forward. So find a way, find a solution, make it work for you, and move on, okay? Now, the second question. How do I know what sort of medium am I going to create for? I don't know, I feel like this is a thing we're gonna get in another question, but it's a disconnection of like communication. Because like, for me, at least my point of view is that I don't come into something asking myself, okay, what is this story gonna be? Because generally I love books, so I write books. I'm working on making some visual novels because I love visual novels. So my point of view advice would be, what do you like? What would you like this story to be, and go out and make that. Simple as that. I know that's like really straightforward. Do what you want to do, but I feel like that's like the only way. As I've said in the past, when it comes to writing and to any sort of creative project, you're gonna be doing it for a long while. So you might as well pick a medium that you like and a subject that you enjoy, because if you don't, you're most likely not gonna make it to the end. And I know that sounds super harsh, but at least from my experience, from the people I've interacted with, people who start off a project working on it, not because they like it, but because they think, okay, if I make it this medium, it's way easier to get picked up by an agent or something like that. Those people don't make it to the end because they're not actually really interested in the project. So again, focus on the fun, focus on what you enjoy, and push forward, okay? Okay. The next question goes a little bit like this. I am writing a character with a thick, obvious Cockney accent. How do you make it tasteful / not annoying? Also, how can I learn to make my sentences have a nice rhythm? I know that this sentence has 5 words post, but I struggle to implement it in my own stories. I use sentences of different length, but it just doesn't seem to click. Also, I write in German and we have a lot of long words. Do they ruin my rhythm? Lots of love. There's a lot to get through. So let's do it. 3 minutes on the clock. Get set, go! Alright. First off, you're doing a character with an accent that is written. Really quickly, All I know about the Cockney accent is that the orcs in Warhammer 40k kind of sound like it. I don't know the sociology of Cockney accents. I don't know exactly how they would be distasteful or how they would be bad. I would urge you to check with somebody about that. Feedback like this is always really effective. It's like, hey, what do you think about X character who speaks with a Cockney accent? Read an excerpt. Is that too annoying? Does it take you out of the story? Because everyone has different thresholds. And if you need to have a character speak with an accent or dialect, which by the way, it's completely normal, a lot of people do, it's not strange. Dialogue is weird and breaks all the rules, so it's fine. But check with somebody, probably somebody whose opinion you respect, and if they get back to you and they say, you know what, it was fine, it made sense, I mean, it's a person with a Cockney accent, they're gonna sound like they have a Cockney accent. Or if they're like, you know what, it was a little bit too much, find a happy medium, feedback is gonna be your friend here. Simple as that. Now, if you're interested, I forget, it's Pravost. Pravost. It's this writer had a post or a quote called "This sentence has 5 words." I made a post of that a long time ago. Go look it up. This sentence has 5 words. It's a really good mini quote on writing flow and why, varying sentence structures really affect the for storytelling. Now, as for you and the little problem that you're having right now, I'm going to assume that you're in the middle of the first draft. And if you are, I would like to urge you to not worry about that whatsoever. I know that, a lot of people, especially people who are getting started, and I'm not saying that you are, but I'm just, saying in general, they focus a lot on wanting to get things done right at the first time, or work hard and make the first draft so good that you give yourself less work. But to be entirely honest, no matter what you do, no matter how great your first draft is, you're still gonna come in and revise it well. So you might as well just write it, get it out, finish it, and then come in really hard through revision. If you've been following my vlogs, I've been doing nothing but editing, and I can tell you that a lot of editing is going through your writing, reading it out loud, hearing it be spoken, and going, that sentence, it's no good, let's move it around. That sentence over there, you're fine. This sentence here though, how did you get here, little sentence? Get out. In my personal experience, only 10% of revision is about fixing mistakes, and a huge percentage of it, let's say 30-40%, is actually fixing flow, reading your story out loud and making adjustments so that it would sound good if you were to read it before an audience. So again, if you're in the middle of writing, just write the story. Just write it and get it done, because if you stop yourself in the middle of writing to worry about the way it's sounding, you're never gonna finish the thing. So what I recommend is write the darn thing, finish it, let it sit for a few weeks, maybe a month, pick it up, and the distance will help, because when you have this much distance between you and the project, it's almost as though you're reading someone else's work. And when you're reading someone else's work, you can totally see when things don't flow well. And you can totally see what you need to do to fix it. Yo, this sentence needs to be longer. This sentence needs to be shorter. This sentence here should probably get chopped entirely. So once again, revision and feedback are your friends. Make use of them, okay? Breathing deeply, because the following is the one question that actually made me scratch my head, so let's take it from the top. How many subplots/events should a story have before the conflict officially occurs? And what is considered excessive to the point that there is too much going on in the story? I'm gonna turn the timer, though I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go over. So I have issues with this question, and I'm not trying to be mean, I just have to, because I had to stop when the random number generator gave me this question, I had to stop. Because I felt as though we were speaking 2 different languages. Because the question, how many events should happen in my story before the plot actually gets going, or the plot officially occurs? And honestly, not gonna lie to you, when I read that question, I sat speechless for 10 seconds, because I didn't know what to say. It felt like we were speaking 2 different languages. But I got down to the bottom of it. That's why it's really good to have a little outline. So, I feel like we're speaking 2 different languages. You're talking about plot as though it's a series of events happening, as opposed to, are you ready? The Marcy Rule. For those of you who don't remember, allow me to give you a refresher course. What is the Marcy Rule? Marcy Allen Craig was my wonderful creative writing professor in college, and she had this rule, went a little bit like this, that plot came from character, not the other way around. And I've added on to that this other little segment that I believe that stories are about characters taking action, making choices, and facing the consequences of said choices. So with that in mind, I kind of like stop and I have to like question the question, if you may. And it's the idea of like, what are your characters doing this whole time? What are they doing? Because the idea of like how many things should happen before things actually get going is a little bit mystifying for me. Because personally, and this is completely 100% subjective, I like to get that rolling right off the start. There's a really good quote. I like to start as close to the ending as possible. Or if you would like a flip side on that, I like to get the story rolling as soon as possible. Because otherwise it just feels really slow for me. But remember that writers create the sort of content they want to read, and I love when stories get rolling right off the start and I don't have to do a build-up. I've been reviewing things recently and I've been talking about books or anime having really slow starts, and that can really turn off your reader, or some readers really like that. Readers are weird. I create what I enjoy and I like quick starts. So, in order to answer your question, how many soft plots or events should a story have before the conflict officially occurs? I would like to urge you to focus on your characters instead, because that's the thing, is like I can't actually answer that question because I don't know, every story is different, every writer is different. Focus on your characters and just focus on following their actions, choices, and consequences. I think that would help. Now, as for the other half of the question, how many things are excessive? As with the previous question, I would like to urge you to, first and foremost, write the thing, write the book, get it out, get it written, finish it. Let it sit, review it later, and I know what you're thinking, but Max, I'm worried about it right now, and I know that you are, and I know it's totally understandable to feel that way, but understand that when you're like this close to the writing, it's really difficult to judge things effectively. When you let it sit and you review it later, after a long while has passed, you get to read it. You get to read this work as though someone else wrote it. And when you have that distance, you can clearly see, wow, there's a lot going on in this first chapter, or wow, there's a lot going on, or a lot of things happen that are not important to the actual main center storyline before the storyline actually gets going. Or you could realize that maybe it needs a little bit more build-up, or maybe it doesn't. All of these things you can't know for sure. You can't know for sure until you have written the thing. And I've said this in the past, and I know that I say this a lot, but revision is really your friend. Seriously, don't be afraid of revision. Revision is there for you. Revision is the point in which all first drafts, terrible, awful first drafts, become gold. Seriously, the timer went off a long time ago, but I know that I talk big game about revision, and it's because I strongly believe in it. It's one of the hardest parts of the process, but it's one of the most rewarding because you can see your work. You can look at your work grow and develop. Especially now, because I've been editing for like 2 weeks back to back, and I made it past the harshest part, the part in which a bunch of things get cut and a bunch of things get rewritten, and I was looking at my story again, and it hurts to cut. It hurts to cut, it hurts to get rid of things that you spend so much time working on. But when you look at the story again, after all these changes, and you notice, this story is not the story that I wrote, and it's so much better than that. It's grown, it's developed. It's gone from this rough, terrible story to something I'm super proud of, something that I'm happy to show to people, to have them read. And that's the journey right there. And you can't get to that point if you get focused on or get stopped on the first draft because you think that maybe it's too much, or maybe it's too sappy, or too silly, or too sad, or too depressing. You gotta get out of that. You gotta get moving. You're not ever gonna get to the finished product if you get stuck on the first step. You know what I'm saying? So keep moving, keep writing, and in time, everything will be fine. Trust me. Revision is your friend. And that's it for today. That was 6 questions instead of 3. That's crazy. I will make sure this never happens in the future ever again. But for the time being, I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that if anything, I gave you another point of view. For the time being, I want to hear what you have to say about the questions answered today. Do you agree? Do you disagree? We're all different writers doing different things, so we'd love to hear what you have to say. Do you actually know about Cockney accents? Because I don't know. All I know is that the orcs from Warhammer 40k are supposed to have Cockney accents for some reason. Anyhow, so that's out of the way. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And I'll see you on the next episode.